Welcome everyone to another edition of Play It Through, and on this edition it's Strider, brought to us by Sega. Strider, based on the arcade game of the same name, was ported over to many home consoles, including the Sega Master System. This version is by far one of, if not the worst version of the game, and one of the worst Master System games I've had the pleasure of playing through. The game was actually originally developed by Capcom, and this version was done actually by Sega themselves. So here we go with Strider for the Sega Master System. When you start up the game, you'll not really get much of a story. You'll kind of be just dropped into the first level, though there is a couple of images that you will see throughout the game with the basic same text between each of the areas. You'll see a few lines of dialogue over and over again for sure. When the gameplay actually begins, you will notice that the graphics aren't bad at all. The character of Strider himself actually looks quite nice. But the problems soon start to amount as soon as you start jumping and actually controlling Strider, as the game will come to a crawl. The game unfortunately cannot seem to handle anything that goes on screen, so once you start attacking with Strider, which would actually work pretty well if the speed didn't slow down so massively every time you ended up attacking. When we make it down to this section, we have our kind of first mini-boss. Wait for this guy to drop down and then jump up on the platform where he was. He'll then roll over to the far right, where you can keep attacking him over and over again with your blade in order to easily defeat him. Then walk underneath the platform as fire will rain down from the sky, and you'll want to make sure that you're out of the way. Now, to explain what's going on at the top of the screen, you have your life count and the score in the center. You have the amount of health you have left in the upper right, aka we have 5 right now. And you have the timer in the upper left corner, which, if you run out of time, you do end up losing a life, which can be really annoying, and there's a couple of moments in the game where you'll have just barely enough time to get through. After reaching checkpoints throughout the levels, though, you will end up getting your time reset. Drop down here, sit right here. By ducking, you'll be able to avoid the laser from this contraption, and then just keep mashing the attack over and over again until it's defeated, and then drop on down. Since you move so slowly as Strider, and when you jump you move even slower, you can actually avoid a lot of things because you can jump so high, but you can also easily end up landing in pits. For the next area where we fight this boss, hang on the left side of the wall. Don't move at all, just hug this left wall. And then just mash the attack when the creature is in you, or the weird device is in you, and you'll be able to keep hitting him, and he won't be able to do damage to you. If you time it right, you can easily hit him multiple times as he's running through you, and once he's defeated, we move on to level number 2. As we begin level 2, you can see that it is an ice-themed level, though that really isn't going to come into play at all. Jump up here at the very beginning, you can grab an item if you like, and as you continue going over to the far right, you're going to have to deal with this giant gorilla machine. For the gorilla, you're going to move in a little bit close and just mash the attack button as fast as possible. Your goal here is to take him out before he's able to take you out, and if you mash the button quick enough, he should only do 1 damage, because you can actually get in a nice sweet spot where I was standing to be able to hit him over and over again without him being able to do damage because of the way the arm is set up. And the reason why I recommend mashing the button instead of actually trying to dodge his attacks is because the timer is going down so quickly. I actually ran out of time right after defeating the boss one time, so I was able to save my health, but I lost a life in the long run, so it's best just to kind of mash the attack button against that mini-boss. Continue along the path. Of course, because of the way the screen scrolls, it can be really weird at times when you make certain jumps, as you'll kind of fall and the screen will slowly scroll along with you. It's a little bit difficult to actually describe, but you'll see it throughout when I'm making certain jumps or when I'm falling down certain pits that it just doesn't feel quite right when it comes to this game. There is no boss for this stage, just platform along these kind of stagnant platforms and make your way up to the top here. You'll see a gunner guy sitting up there, but you don't actually have to take him out. Even if you end up getting shot, it's okay as long as you have more than 1 hit left, because if you jump over to the far right, the level ends and we can move on to the next stage. As we begin the next level, we're going to take out one of these machines right away and then jump up here and take out the next turret that's trying to fire at us. Thankfully, we do get some of our health back in between the levels to help you out. Once you make it a little bit up the ship, drop on down to this part here. You can attack along the way just to make sure that nothing comes flying at you, but you should be safe. And then take out the flying thing that kind of chases you down to the very bottom level. Along the way here, be very careful. You may have to duck sometimes to try to avoid the fire of the machine-like guys who are coming at you. Make sure to do a big jump here so you don't fall straight down into the pit down below. I ended up making that mistake on the first time going through the level. There are some things that aid you, like these robots that sometimes appear that will kind of fly around you for a short period of time that will take out some of the enemies. So they actually are pretty useful. It's kind of like a force field, but they don't last forever, and you always still, of course, are going to have to be on your toes. Do a big giant jump here, just kind of save a few seconds as you're trying to make your way through the level. And when you reach down to the bottom here, you're going to have a couple of machines moving up and down firing at you, but you can easily just walk underneath the fire as long as you're not on the slopes. As you can see, the bullets just go right over your head if you're on the even, flat ground. Thankfully, the little robot guy helps me a little bit during this section. When we make it over here, we're going to drop straight down for the next mini-boss. This guy is a pain. As you're flying and circling around it, you have to have a gravitational pull. And you have to kind of speed up, sometimes slow down, while you're also attacking non-stop in order to keep doing damage to this thing and eventually kill it. As you can see, it fires out bullets at you, so you always have to be careful of those as well. When you make it to the bottom, just move a little bit to the right here and attack this guy a few times, and then get as far away from him as you can. The thing is, his hit detection is really, really bad, and he can hit you from a far distance. But thankfully, as long as you have like 2 hits left, you should be able to defeat him and move on to the next level without losing a life. Next up is a jungle-themed stage, and it's actually the first level that I actually will be losing a life in, because the boss of this section is just a huge pain to try to beat without getting any damage done to you. One thing you may have also noticed is you can actually slide in the game, which is kind of cool, but the jump is just so ridiculous that I end up using that usually a lot more than using the slide ability. There's some boomerang people here on these platforms. Do big jumps over them to avoid them, and then when you are coming down, you can kind of swipe at them with the sword just to take them out. Then jump up along these small platforms. I usually end up taking a hit from the guy at the very top who's waiting for me. Of course, the screen, the way it scrolls, it can be difficult to judge exactly where you're currently standing. And then make your way over to the far right, where you're going to drop down a handful of ledges. Once down here a little bit, jump up to the next ramp. You're going to have a couple more of the boomerang guys waiting for you along the ramp. Do a big jump at the end here if you like, and now you'll have the next mini-boss, a giant dinosaur who will run towards you. Just chase along with him and keep attacking him. If you're at the right spot, you can keep attacking him, you won't be able to get hit by him, and anytime he ends up turning around, he'll just pass by you. As you can see with the damage I did take from him, I was able to take him out though before I ended up having to take another damage myself. The problem is, the boss for the stage is right after this. Trying to hit this guy and be able to dodge his projectiles takes exact timing because of the way they come out, how slow your jump is. It can be really hard to get up to this platform safely, wait for the right opportunity, and then do a big leap in order to actually hit the boss. And as you notice, when I try here, I will eventually end up getting hit, and I will have to start the boss over, but thankfully it's really not that bad. When you jump up from the ledge, you can see that I end up running right into a bullet because it's really, really difficult to get the exact timing needed. Now, once I restart the fight, I'm not really as worried about my health, though you still have to be careful because you're only going to have 4 hits, so you still have to dodge some of the bullets because you're only going to be able to get in so many hits per jump at the boss itself. You also want to make sure that you time your leap correctly so that your leap actually goes over the top bullet when you do so. As you can see, when he fires out, it ends up firing straight out right below me as I'm already dealing a lot of attacks directly to the boss. But eventually he will blow up and we can move on to the next level. Surprisingly, we are already in the final stage of the game. I get another one of the robot friends to help me out at the beginning here, which will come in handy taking out some of the random enemies I end up seeing along the way. You can attach yourself to the lower platform here and move yourself shimmying across until you can land safely on the ramp to the right and then climb up the right wall. Sometimes latching on the wall can be difficult, but then again, what in this game ends up not being difficult. When you make it over here, do a big jump over to the right. Do not fall down the pit here. Be careful if you're making your way up. If you don't have the robot, there's machine gun guys who will fire at you, so you have to be cautious of them. When you make it over here, jump over to the far right, and then drop down here on the right side, as this will line you up so you don't fall in the pit. Yep, if you fall down the left side of that little opening, you end up falling right in the pit because you can't move while falling. Another one of the fatal flaws, unfortunately, of the programming of the level. When you make it over here, some of the machine gun guys may come up from behind, but thankfully their bullets don't travel that far, so you can make it to the platform safely. And then we have a rematch against the giant gorilla. Since we actually have plenty of time on our hands this time, we can actually do the duck hit that you need to in order to avoid taking damage against the machine, unlike the last time where I had to really kind of rush my attack against them. Now this gorilla is the end of the stage, but it goes right into the final boss encounter, so there really isn't another level to the game. We jump right into the final boss. We're going to hang out on this far right platform and jump up and attack the giant glowing orb in the center of the screen being held by the boss. Try to do your best to dodge the projectiles that end up flying out of it. If you hit it at the right times, you can see that you can get a couple of hits in when you make your jumps each time and hopefully be able to dodge enough of the projectile fire in order to last long enough in order to defeat the boss and sit back and enjoy the ending to Strider on the Sega Master System. After that very stellar ending, we then get to put in our initials and then get to see how we racked up on the high score counter. While the Strider arcade game is an all-time classic and the NES game is definitely a favorite of mine, unfortunately this version of Strider falls really below expectations. I don't know if they were rushed or they were trying to emulate the arcade version so much that the Master System just couldn't handle it. But unfortunately, Strider on the Sega Master System is, well, just a really poor game. But with that, that's going to wrap up this edition of Play It Through. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, consider giving it a thumbs up. I do want to apologize. I know Ninja November is kind of creeping into December, but trust me, there will be 2 more Ninja November games before I end up jumping into my Star Wars month for December. But if you enjoyed this, consider clicking over on the other side of the screen and click the Strider for the NES Play It Through, which is a much better Strider game. If you want to play a game named Strider, definitely check that one out over this Master System version. This version was not very good. I also want to give a huge special thank you to all the members of my Patreon. Without their support, I wouldn't be able to keep doing what I'm doing, so thank you guys so much for that. If you'd like to join them, you can click the little Patreon button right directly below me. As little as $1 a month can actually keep this channel going. So thank you for all your support, thank you for watching, and of course, I hope you enjoyed.